Hi there, in this tutorial we're going to look at actually animating the icon itself. Like you can see here, okay, we're animating the lines. Up until now we've just been animating the icon's position and scale. So let's go and learn how to do that now in this video. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new project. So file, new project, close any ones you have open down, and yeah, you'll end up here. So second thing we need to do is create a composition new. We're going to make sure it's HDTV, 1080p, 25 frames per second. How long is it going to be? I'm going to make mine, okay, instead of trying to type it all in and fill out all the columns, I'm just going to make mine about 5 seconds. 500, okay, and if I tab out, it's made it 5 seconds. Background color, we're going to leave it as black, okay, and add a fill, okay, a solid like we should. Cool, so I've got this, I'm going to save it, and this one here I'm going to put on my desktop. I'm going to create a folder, and this is going to be my AFX files. Okay, I'm going to give this one a name, and this one's going to be animated lines. Great. Cool, let's add a solid to the background. Layer new solid, we've done this. Okay, pick a color, I can see these guys over here, picking this one. Great, I'm going to lock it, actually going to rename it. Background. And let's lock it so I don't move it. Next up, we need to draw some stuff here in After Effects. Okay, so we're going to draw in After Effects to get started because it's easy enough to do basic things like that clock, but you could bring it in from Illustrator. I'll show you how to do that a little later. There's a couple of extra steps, but I'm going to hold down the rectangle tool, grab the ellipse tool. I'm going to click on the fill where it says the word fill. I'm going to say no fill. Where it says the stroke, I'm going to click on the color and I'm going to pick a stroke color of maybe just off-white. Okay, or I've got this kind of like off-white that I'm using over here. Cool, it's actually gray, it's not off-white at all. Now I'm gonna start dragging, and while I'm dragging, hold shift, it's gonna be a perfect circle. Sometimes gonna be about that sort of size. Okay, gonna go back to my selection tool, grab it and kind of stick it there. Okay, we're gonna draw the hands of the clock. Now to make this a little easier for us, if I start drawing with a pen tool now, okay, while I had that layer selected, what ends up happening is this ellipse, okay, which was the circle around the outside, and this line now become part of the same shape layer, and that can work out for you, but it's a little complicated to get started with. So to get around that, just have nothing selected. Click in this dark area down the bottom, then grab the pen tool, and I'm going to click up here, hold shift, click once again, straight line, and you can see it's a second layer. Now in this case, the stroke width, okay, we're going to leave it at 5. Okay, yeah, 5 pixels, up to you. And we're going to draw the next part, okay, the hands for the hour. So I'm going to click off, okay, and I'm going to click once, hold down shift. I'm going to 3 o'clock, okay, I'm not sure why. And I'm just going to rename these to make life easier. The face. This one here is going to be the minute. This one here is going to be the hours, or the hours. Okay, so we've got our clock. What we want to do is get it to animate. So the first thing we need to do is something called trim paths. Okay, trim paths help us animate lines. Okay, so we'll do it to the face first. Twirl this down and you add it by clicking this little add button here. There's one in here called trim paths. We used the repeater earlier on in the tutorials. Now it's trim path time. So I'll play here at the beginning. Okay, open up trim paths and you got these start in the end. Okay, so I wanted to start actually completely finished. To do that, okay, we're going to turn the stopwatch on to make keyframes for start, and we're going to crank it up to 100%. Can you see if I drag 100? Okay, so I'm going to go all the way so it's completely finished at 100%. And then after some time, I'm going to go for half a second, okay, 13 frames, and I'm going to go down to 0. So I've got 2 keyframes, one when it's 100 and one when it's down at 0. I'm going to hit spacebar, and we've got a line. I'm going to select them both and add some velocity to them. Okay, 75, 75. I'm going to add motion blur to them to make them look a bit prettier, and that's all we're going to do. Okay, so we're going to go through and do that for all of the different parts. So not super hard. You can skip on now because it's pretty much step and repeat. So the minutes hands here, I'm going to get it to appear at the same time. Maybe kind of partially, so it's kind of started here. And you can see this kind of like wispy bit. That's because of the motion blur. If I turn that off, hard line, wispy bit. So it's going to start here, hold shift to get to the front of it. I'm going to twirl it down. I'm going to say add trim paths, open up trim paths, start the start, make sure it's at 100% after some time. Okay, so just a bit further along than this. I'm going to turn it to 0. I have no idea about this timing. I'm just going to wing it and then adjust it as I go. Twirl that down. Going to start just a bit further over. Twirl U down, add trim paths, open this up, set the keyframes going, go to 100, and then after some time, okay, maybe not as long because it's a bit of a shorter line, I'm going to go down to 0. Kick back, relax. Is this going to look awesome? Or, I'd say or. Okay, I'm going to right click it, go to keyframe velocity, and change these to something a little bit more exciting. These lines are taking far too long to come on, so I'm going to type them together. Twirl on this one, click on this, hit U, just to see those guys a bit tidier. Okay, and grab these two, keyframe velocity, 75, 75. Let's see what it looks like now. Yoop. Okay, too fast now. Can't win. Okay, and I might stagger them out a little bit more. Now I'm just messing about. That go away. That takes way too long. Okay, the only problem with this one is that it comes from the other side. If you're finding that, it's because I drew it from this way in. Okay, so it'll be wherever you started drawing a line. Okay, so I can fix that by going into here. Okay, and we're going to, instead of using start and end, okay, I'm going to turn that off, go back to the beginning, and turn that back to where it was. What was it? Is it 0? No, was it 100 to start with? No, it was a 0. Cool, so we're going to use the end. Okay, we're going to work from the other side. So turn this on. And we're going to start it at 0 and go along some time and then crank this up. Okay, so you can see it get it going the other way. All right, you, done. You can spend ages messing around with these lines to figure out what it's going to look like. Awesome, we're going to hit save. Okay, so that's drawing from inside of After Effects. Let's say we've already got some icons drawn. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to, let's name this comp. Okay, rename it. I'm going to call this one the clock. Okay, we're going to make a new comp position. Okay, it's going to be all the same as the last one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back, I'm going to rename it actually. This one's going to be the lock. I'm going to go back to the clock. I'm going to grab the background, unlock it, copy it. Go to the lock, paste it, lock it, right click it, call it background. I'm not going to even bother. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to bring in something that was made in Illustrator. The problem with that is, I'm going to double click, let's bring in, go to O2, Icon Grow, and bring in Trim Path 1. Okay, so I'm going to bring it in and I dump it in here. It's something that I drew in Illustrator. Okay, not super fancy. But the problem is trim paths is not going to work, okay, because it's actually just one object. It's not actually lots of little separate paths, but it's easy enough fixed. Okay, you can go up to layer and go to this one that says, you gotta have this layer selected. Some of these are my trim paths and say create shapes from vector layer. Okay, and it goes and redraws it. The weird thing is it kind of leaves the original there and turns the eyeball off. There it is. Okay, I don't need it, so I'm going to bin it. Okay, and this is the one I'm going to use. We don't need this either anymore. We could delete it. I'm just going to leave it there though. There's no reason to delete it. And we're going to go down here and we're going to go down to add and we're going to go down to trim paths. And we've got all these different groups, but here's the trim path controlling them all. Okay, and it's the same. Okay, start and finish. So I'm going to keyframe at the beginning, start it at 100%, and then after some time, I'm going to get it to come down to 0. It's amazing. Okay, and some motion blur, and we'll be there. Okay, and you can play around with the timing, how long this thing takes. Awesome, so that's how to get these kind of logos to grow. Now this one was a particularly easy one because it was actually just lines out of Illustrator. Not all icons will animate the same, okay, especially when there's fills in it. So let's look at doing that now. First thing is to go up to composition, new composition, and we're going to call this one girl. Okay, and we're going to paste in the background, lock it again, and we're going to try and bring it in. So I'm going to double click the background in here to import, and I'm going to try and bring in this other thing. I've downloaded it from the Adobe Market, right? Okay, and it's come down as this SVG. At the moment, After Effects won't deal with SVGs. They're awesome vector files, but After Effects can't use them at the moment, but Illustrator can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into my exercise files, open up O2 Icon Grow, and open this up in Illustrator. Cool, so in Illustrator, all I need to do is go to File, Save As, and instead of SVG, save it as an AI file. Okay, click Save, click OK. I can close it down now. Now, in After Effects, I can double click in here, and there she is. Okay, I can bring it in fine. Same problem as before though, it's kind of this object I can't add trim paths to. So I need to go to Layer and go to Create Shapes from Layer. Okay, nothing really changes except remember this thing I don't need, and that's the bit. The shape layer here, I'm going to add trim layer, and it's going to be a little bit different. It's a little hard to control trim paths. Okay, so don't get too caught up. If you want it perfect, it's going to be a little bit hard to do when you haven't built it, and it's got lots of fills instead of lines. This is meant to be trim paths, okay, the edges. So we're going to start it off at 0, and after some time, it's going to be down. Okay, what is it going to look like? Actually, we've got to set the keyframes first. So at 0, after some time, back down to 100. Got that backwards, but anyway, you got it right. Cool. So that's kind of an easy, cheap way, trim paths, to actually build a little animated logo nice and easy. Okay, one of the last little things is I'll jump back to the clock. Okay, remember this animation is that when they actually appear in, okay, the lines draw on, it looks good if they're kind of just falling a little bit. So let's do that little trick. Okay, and at the same time, we're going to learn what a null object is, because at the moment, these guys are on 3 lines. So I could animate them all separately and just try and get them to come down together by lining up the keyframes, and that would work. Okay, but a nice little trick is I'm going to create this thing called a null object, and it's an empty layer. And all that means is I'm going to say, you guys follow this null object, and then I move the null object down a little bit. And because these guys are all tagged to it and are following it, they will move down as well. The null object is something that we're going to use quite a few times in this course, especially when we get into camera tracking. So we're going to use a nice easy version here. To create a null object, we're going to go up to Layer, we're going to go to New, and we're going to go to Null Object. Okay, and what we're going to say is we're going to attach all these guys. So you guys are parenting to this. We do it by saying, okay, they've got no parents at the moment. You guys are parenting to the null object. Okay, so they're going to follow him around. Cool. If you can't see this one here where it says parenting, you probably, it's toggle switches and modes. Okay, so switch to this one here where we can see the parenting. Now, all we need to do is move the null object. Watch this. If I move the null object, if I go to P for position, and I just move it around, you see everybody comes with me. If I turn that off, okay, and I say the clock face is not going to follow, everything but him will come along. So watch. See, just the inside guys come along. So I'm going to undo that, and let's get them all to parent. So back here at the beginning, I'm going to turn on my position, and then after some time, so as it's coming down, maybe like that. Okay, we're just going to get it to, actually at the beginning here, we'll get it to start up a bit higher. Not super high, not like a full descent like we did earlier on, just a nice little subtle one. So first keyframe is up a little higher, and then kind of halfway through this, I'm going to get it to move down into the center, about there. Okay, and let's turn the easing on, and let's try and impress you with it looking marginally better. So look. Wow, too fast. Okay, but you get the idea. It just adds an extra dimension when you are doing these drawing lines. All right, that's it for animating lines for an infographic. Let's move on to the next video.